Hi, and welcome to Global Professionals in Portugal. Today, my guest is Federico Heine. He lives here in Portugal and he originally came from Argentina, and he's going to share us a little bit about his journey. And thank you so much for being our guest today.
Hello, Cordelia. How are you? It's always a pleasure to tell experience and help people that are coming to Portugal and talk about the market. So I'm really pleased to be here. Thank you.
Well, thank you. So, let's start off by what brought you to Portugal and how did you end up working here?
Okay, two things. First, I met my wife that she's Brazilian and she's descendant. So my
Okay.
father-in-law is Portuguese. So as you know, Latin America is in a little bit of conflict nowadays. So
Mhm.
when we decided to choose where our family is going to be based, we say, okay, if we have this European possibility, it's a good way to start.
Mhm.
And Portugal mostly became because on my wife's family, it's very common to come here. So that's the main reason.
Okay. And now you actually, so a lot of our guests who come on the show have their own practice, their own consultancy or something like that, but you actually went kind of a more traditional route and you got a job. So can you
Yeah,
tell us a little bit about that process and how that worked for you?
of course. Having a job was a need because when you start on a new country, you don't want to take things for granted and you want to like be safe on financially speaking. So I might say that I coexist with the two words because I have my formal job, but I do my own stuff separately too. It
Right.
obviously is not the protagonist, but I like to. I'm a sales trainer. I'm a psychologist. So I have my patients and I have my consultees at the same time.
Okay.
And then I run the EMEA sales direction in Europe for a company called Insured. It's an outsourcing company. They are HQ in US, and I'm working from the branch in Portugal.
Okay. Now, how long have you lived in Portugal?
In February, it's going to be 6 years.
Oh, that's a big anniversary.
It is, it
Okay.
is, it is. And man, the market has changed a lot. Even when I came here, I arrived 2 weeks before the pandemic. So imagine that the
Gosh.
market went through a lot of stuff and then came the war. And Portugal
Yeah.
is a very special place in Europe to do a lot of different things. It's a very good place for a certain type of business. And if you're strategic and you understand which are the good things that the market can provide from here, it's a very good idea to come.
So when you say that it's good for a certain type of business, I'm curious what you mean by that.
Let's go on a paradox in Portugal. That is the following. The paradox is a minimum salary in Europe,
Right.
and sometimes your companies think that it's cheap to come here, that it's economic to come here and build and run the European strategy from Portugal. But the taxes
Mhm.
are really high.
Right.
So it's still been an advantage to come here and settle here, because if you settle your company in Germany, in I don't know, in another place, it's going to be more
Right.
expensive. But it's not that cheap as it looks like. Okay, so basically that is the first matter to analyze. And for that, when you're starting your business, you have a lot of concepts that can help you to start and see how it goes before doing a big investment. And there where the outsourcing concepts come in. So you can check how the market is. You can check how the dynamic can be for your company with an existing established company that can do the job for you, a specific one. Not killing the core of your business because you can have room to develop your core business, but there are certain departments of your company that may be outsourced and you can settle the foundation and then start to grow because you're worried and you can pay attention on what you really need. So the market has evolved a lot. Let's say real estate, let's say IT, a lot of markets that are increasing here is because of this, because the cost of living is very low and you have a lot of immigrants. The paperwork to come here is not that difficult if you come
Yeah.
from if you're an outsider from Europe, coming to Portugal a few years ago was way easier. So you have a mass of immigrants that it's a very healthy and productive workforce, very, very various, I would say. So when you are thinking on starting a business, it's a very special place. So when I say
Hmm.
special, I'm not saying it's good for everybody, but it has
Right.
ingredients that not all the European country has, you know?
Yeah, one thing that has really impressed me here is that, or at least I guess I would say it surprised me, is the diversity of the English speaking community here.
Yeah.
Because, of course, you have many, many Portuguese people who speak English, but then you have people from all over the globe here, and English is the common language. And so I definitely had a bias before moving here that the English speakers were going to be Americans and British and maybe some Australian people. And that was like, I didn't really think about, I mean, even though I knew kind of intellectually that different people spoke English, but I
It's
love
like
the
that.
business
It's like that.
community. We have business events here and we have people from all over Europe, all over the world. And I think it's a wonderful place. There's a lot of innovation and creative thinking because people are coming here to either launch a new type of life or make a change. And that's an exciting time.
Portugal is a good place to start a new, I would say life, but it is not the topic. But talking about
Right.
business, this mass immigration that Portugal has created a very specific ideology here. People like to
Hmm.
start things here.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of new ideas, you have a lot of incubators, you have a lot of business accelerators, a lot of events, uh, very specific. If you want an event on a specific topic, in
Yeah.
2 or 3 weeks, you will have it in any place in Portugal. You will have one place to talk about the topic that you want to develop. So it's amazing on that aspect. When I'm running this sales department, it's really interesting. First, because I have the advantage of not being narrowed on a specific market, because I can outsource whatever a company needs. So that gives me the leverage and the opportunity to talk with a lot of different companies here in Portugal.
Okay, hold on for 1 second. Let me stop you for a minute. Federico and I have spoken previously, but for the people watching, why don't you tell them a little bit about what your current role is and what you're doing now, what
Okay,
your current
okay,
job is?
sorry,
Because
sorry.
we
Yeah,
kind of skipped over that.
I can do that. I can do that. I've studied. I'm a psychologist, but I always worked on the corporate world on sales. Okay, so I put together the two worlds: the
Okay.
psychology for one side and the sales on the other side. So
There's a lot of psychology in sales.
that is you know that in my home country it's kind of difficult to be a psychologist and make a living out of it.
Yeah,
So being
yeah.
in sales, it was mostly a need, and when I say a need, it is being my passion afterwards, because I mix the two professions all the time. And what I do nowadays, I'm the EMEA sales director of an outsourcing company that is based in US and has a branch on Portugal. And I'm
Okay.
in charge of the European strategy. And Portugal for us was a key place for these matters that we are discussing now. This
Right.
variety and these amazing projects that are coming here, and they need to start in a healthy way. So there's the option, right?
So you lived in Argentina and you lived in Portugal. Have you lived in any other countries?
I've lived in 4 countries. Why?
Okay, tell us.
Because as I told you at the beginning, my wife is Brazilian, so
Right.
I have worked on Brazilian companies. I have
Okay.
worked on Irish companies, because before coming here to Portugal, we needed to develop our English. And living in an English spoken country, it was interesting for us to make a huge diversion there. I've lived in Brazil, in Ireland, in Portugal, and in Argentina, where I was born.
Okay. Do you feel like Portugal is a good place to work compared to those other countries?
I think that is a twofold answer. Okay, first is it is talking about the environment, the human quality condition, your coworkers, how the climate is about, how you can relate with people is excellent.
Okay.
On the financial part, it is not a place to make money.
Yeah.
It is not a place for you to be rich. It's a place for you to have a very good life quality, something that the government guarantees, gives you like the tranquility of coming here and think that it's a good idea. But I think that the goal here is to have a good life, you know,
Yeah.
not not becoming wealthy, just have a good life. And that was and is going to be my goal. I don't
Okay.
want a lot of things. I just wanted to have my family, to have my kid, and have a good life without it, not worrying a lot of difficult
Yeah.
stuff, you know?
Yeah. That makes perfect sense. So when you first moved here, did you have a job already lined up or did you come here and look for one?
No, I had a job. I had a job.
Okay.
When I came here, I was hired by a French company, a lead generation company, to develop the LATAM strategy. So basically, another thing, I don't know if this podcast is about giving advices or maybe telling experiences, but I think that what I was wondering when I looked for a job here before coming is
Yeah,
what
yeah.
can I give as a added value
Mhm.
that only my profile can give.
Yeah,
I'm
that's a
Latin
great question to
American.
ask. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. I'm Latin American. So talking about sales in Latam is not that frequent. Not
Yeah.
the 100% of the company want to sell in Latam. It was very few, but that narrowed my strategy and say, okay, I created a funnel when I say I can stand out and I can give some value that not all the salespeople that are going to apply could give.
Yeah.
So yeah, I came with a job.
I think that's a really good point is whenever, when you're looking is to try to think about what you have that's special, and it's better to cast to be specific than to try to cast too wide of a net because then you don't catch anything. So I
Exactly,
love that.
exactly.
And how would you say, without getting, don't have to share any specific salary numbers, but how would you say, how affordable is your life here compared to how much money you make?
And that's a good question. I think that it's very polarized. Let's say black and white. It is very clear if you make some decisions and you choose a certain way of living, you can make a living out of it very easily. Giving up, I wouldn't say luxuries, but things that in my in my structure I was very used to do in my home country. I have to give up some things, especially when I started. So if your mindset is open and you think, okay, I'm not going to have the same life that I left there, I will eventually, but not at the beginning. I'm talking about years. So I'm
Right.
having the life that I had when I left my country only a few years ago. I spent
Okay.
a good amount of years building myself up again. So
Yeah.
the answer is yes, you can make a living out of it, very good living, and I'm talking about in this in this proportion, as I told you a few minutes ago.
Right.
We are not going to be rich.
Right.
So
Right.
I'm
But you
buying
can
my house,
afford
I have a
you
car,
yeah.
and I can, I don't know, eat in on a restaurant once a week. Those things. I don't ask
Right.
much more than that. So the answer
Okay.
is yes. In my opinion, is yes.
Okay. And how do you feel like your work-life balance is here?
It's excellent.
Yeah.
It's excellent because the mindset is, I think it's a human current that companies are having. The newest the company is, they consider that the human is more productive if they are rested, if they are happy. So thinking about production, being productive sounds cold, but it's not because if I had a good weekend, next Monday I will come with a very good idea to make a
Mhm.
sell or a very good strategy to go to a specific audience or whatever my job needs. So
Yeah.
I think I sometimes I spend a couple more hours per day due to a specific situation, but the average is that I have a well balanced that part.
Okay. What do you find is the best way for you to generate leads and to find your clients here? Is it different than in other countries, or what have you found?
I think that data rules, okay, and I think that when you establish your strategy, you need a window of 6 months to understand how the market behaves and understand that the investment is not a loss of money. It's just a translation of how your style and your product can be inserted in on a specific market. So my suggestion is to take the risk of failing on a focused way, because
Okay.
if you if you get the correct symptoms, you will learn where to put the attention afterwards when you fail here, you know. So my suggestion is try to outsource only the beginning of the building of your funnel to have plenty of options that are already qualified. And then when you want to do your intervention, the quality is better, your time worth more when you have like a nice pool of leads, and you can do this very easily with certain companies like mine, or lead generation companies, performance marketing companies that are more focused only on leads. So that is what I always recommend. You have a lot of marketing companies that can offer a lot of different situation and strategies, but the fact is you need leads to start working out your strategy, your interaction, and learn from it. So what I
Right.
always suggest is go directly to the mud and like get dirty and fight in the sales pool, and then you stop and say, hey, what has happened here? Why this company said no? Why this company ignored me? Why this company said yes?
Hmm.
Because maybe at the beginning the 1% says yes, and you're going to learn why.
Okay.
So that is my suggestion. 6 months, you know that you're not going to sell. Get money, get funding, get whatever you need, and be patient.
Okay. And now I've heard from some of our other guests that here, it's a relationship economy. So the a really good way to get leads is more in-person introductions versus data. But you're saying that you're actually getting leads from data. So I'm curious, if you found, are you then reaching out to people individually, or are you kind of using a more of a digital funnel?
That's a good question, and it's a
And this may be a little too nerdy for this
no, it's
podcast
not. It's
because
not. It's not.
this is more
No,
about
no,
like
no.
people's journey, but I'm like, because we're working on sales too. And so you can only go out and meet so many people, right? Like, it's like there's so many hours in the day, but that's what I've been told over and over again. That's the best way to make relationships with like CEOs and decision makers
Yeah,
is
yeah, yeah.
relationships here.
What I want to say is like my answer is kind of complex because I have a specific point of view, and I don't know if
Mhm.
it's the correct one, but it's a way of
Well,
doing
it's
things, and it's
yours.
the
That's
following.
fine.
Yeah, I think that you should maintain all the channels all the time. I
Yeah.
think that the intelligent part is to know how much energy you put in each channel, but you should keep all the channels alive. When I talk about channels, it can be going to trade shows, email marketing, lead generation, content, influence marketing, whatever you can do to expand your brand and get get be known by X people. I think you should do all at the same time. But then you put the intelligence, okay, email marketing is not that profitable. I will spend 10% of my investment there. Okay. But going to trade shows, the ROI was X. Okay, I can go to 10 events in a year or two, depending on the ROI. But
Right.
everything gives you feedback. everything
Mhm.
gives you something in return that you can take and sharp your product or your service. So then you're going to have specific channels that work the better. Understand? So I would say that what works the best for us, it's content. A lot
Okay.
of people that comes and ask, hey, what's outsourcing about? Can I outsource my administration department? It's not only a huge company or customer support department that can be outsourced. And we understood that due to the interaction in every market in the whole in the globe, and we understood that giving this good news of you can outsource mostly anything, it's due to the content. We know
Right.
what you can outsource, and we give content on that. And a lot of people come and say, "Hey, I have a 5 people company. Can I outsource my human resources because I would like to have a better recruitment department?" Yeah, you can do it. Understand?
Okay.
So content
Yeah.
work really good for us. Show
Okay.
what we've got.
So it kind of, but it builds on your relationship. So if somebody says,
Yeah,
"Hey, can you do this?" and you say, "Oh yeah, here's,
yeah,
this
yeah, yeah,
some
yeah,
information."
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. So what about socially? Have you found it easy to make friends here? Now you said your wife she speaks, how's your language skills? Are you mostly socializing in like the international community or more native or both?
You have Brazilian people everywhere.
There are a lot of Brazilian
So every
people,
country
and
you
they
will,
are wonderful people. One of my best friends
yeah,
is Brazilian. Yes.
yeah, yeah. So that makes things a lot easier. So yeah, we mostly relate with Argentinians or Brazilian communities
Yeah.
here, and then on the professional side, it's not the most frequent, but sometimes I cross the line of having a client or something and can be a friend too. But mostly
Okay.
is our own communities of course.
The thing about moving to, I think, any country is that the people that already live there, they have their lives already.
Yeah,
And so I think it's naturally easier to make friends with people who are also new because, they don't have their whole everything established, or maybe you have something in common with them. So I
I like
found
the
that,
concept of, despite that we're adults, doing things for the first time like we were kids. You know, like making friends is something. It's not a challenge in your home country. It is a challenge when you're outside your comfort zone and you need to know yourself and see, okay, what are my resources here to break the ice with an unknown and invite it to my house and to have a coffee or a lunch or something, and okay, here you are, here I am, we are new here.
Mhm,
Let's build something,
absolutely.
and we failed. Of course, we failed, but
Mhm.
sometimes we don't. So it's
I think it's a
it's
little bit like
playing, it's
dating.
fooling around. Like
Like sometimes, you date and you go on a date and it's not a good date, and then other
exactly,
times,
exactly.
so it's a little bit like that.
There's a saying in Argentina. I don't know if the other part of the world, but the bicycle can only be balanced if you're moving. If
Mm,
not, it's going to fall. So I think
okay.
that every new situation that you have and you need to learn, if you're consistent on only keep moving, new information is going to come. And making
Mm,
friends is like that too.
I love that. I love that expression. Okay. Can you say it? Say it in Spanish?
Yeah, la bicicleta se mantiene equilibrada cuando está en movimiento.
Okay. Very good. I love it. Okay. What is something that you wish you had known before you moved to Portugal? Is there anything you could have, like, maybe
That's
you
a
could give?
very good question. Let me check. Let me go on the hard disk and say I wish I would have been more prepared on the real estate part, like trying
Mhm.
to resolve where to stay at the beginning, like beforehand, like with a lot of anticipation. We struggle a lot to find a place to live,
Yeah.
and I'm talking about renting, not buying. So even worse. Should be easier, but the accommodation part is really difficult, especially
Yeah.
when you're new and you don't have a network. So at that point, if you can anticipate and say, okay, I will get here for the first 3 months to to understand how this new situation works, I would have prepared that better. And I think that would have made my life very easier. But I think that is the main point.
Okay. So we kind of discussed this already, but what would you say are some skills or mindset that you think would help expats succeed?
I think that um, a big part of being in a new place, I think that the most important thing to succeed is being the more flexible that you can. Almost reset yourself because when human beings are in different contexts, different gifts, different reactions come. So don't pretend that you know what is going to come in this new context of yourself. So I think if you come really open and say, okay, I need to survive in order to succeed, but my expectations cannot be the ones that I think they will be. I am being very satisfied here in Portugal with things that I didn't consider would satisfy me.
Hmm.
So that is a reset of your perception. Understand? So
Yeah,
I would
absolutely.
say come blank.
Hmm.
You are leaving a place for a big amount of reasons. Try to not know what you're going to find.
Yeah.
Just have faith that is going to be good,
Hmm.
not in the way that you expect, in a different way, because it's a different place.
Yeah. And I would also add that, again, this kind of goes a little bit back to what I was saying before, but there's so many cultural differences.
Yeah,
Even whether you're cultural between, whatever, wherever country you came from and Portugal, but then, between me and
Cordelia,
you
it's a
from your
mess.
culture, and then we
The
have,
cultural part is a mess. So don't imagine what you're
right,
going to encounter because
yes,
you have the ecosystem, and then you have your own primary ecosystem that can be
right.
composed by you don't know what. So come
Hmm.
really open, dive in. Something is going to happen.
And try not to get offended. Like
Try
if
not to
somebody
get
if
offended.
somebody says something offensive,
Exactly, exactly,
just be
exactly,
like, all right, maybe
exactly.
that's just their culture, maybe that's not
Exactly.
a rude thing, and where they're from,
Yeah,
and like I just need to chill a little bit because
exactly, exactly. I
it's
couldn't
just
agree
not
more. Yeah.
always, yeah. Okay. Now, do you speak Portuguese in your work environment, or do you mostly speak English? What languages do you speak?
I work with the three languages. I speak Portuguese. Let me tell you a personal information that gives an insight on this. My son, it's Portuguese. I adopted
Okay.
a Portuguese kid, so I speak Portuguese at home every day with my
Oh,
wife. She's Brazilian. In my work, my heads are Portuguese, and then my the all the different heads on my company are from US, so I work in English mostly. But as I develop the European strategy, I speak Spanish too because I sell in Spain. So I
yeah.
speak the three languages the whole day. It's
Wow.
yeah, it's a mess. It's a mess.
You must have been now when are you used to it now, or do you just get exhausted from it? Because switching back and forth, people don't think about it, but switching languages can really, it's exhausting sometimes.
I'm not exhausted now, but I must confess that it's been a short while that I'm not exhausted.
Okay.
So I've been exhausted for a lot of years, but now I used to. But it's not that much time that I'm okay
Yeah.
with it. Yeah,
Yeah. What are some of your favorite things about living here?
I think that the people are great. They're used to immigrants, so I like that. And if you get the car, you can get it in places that are amazing and very near and very
Mhm.
different. Like you
Yes.
can go to very different landscapes in minutes.
Mhm. It's
Sometimes
amazing.
Sometimes
It is
it's not
amazing.
even an
Yeah.
hour,
Yep.
and it's so living here is like always an adventure because you can have the places that you can find on the internet, but then you discover places that maybe a person that lives in the I don't know next to your door say, hey, go here. You
Right.
don't know this place, like, and you say, man, 20 minutes by car, and,
Mhm.
and yeah, it's a small country
Yeah, it
for us,
is, but it's so
for
different.
us,
It's small, but
yeah,
every little piece of it is so different from every other little
yeah,
piece of
it's
it. It's
polarized a lot.
amazing.
So you have extremes in minutes. So that it's
Mhm.
amazing. I like that. Yeah.
So in the summertime, so we live near each other. Federico and I live near each other, but we're about 20 minutes from the coast. And so if it's chilly in the summertime here, there's a water park with a swimming pool that is in Nazare. So that's about a 30-minute drive. But it's usually colder there.
Yeah,
So you can only go there when it's really hot because otherwise it's freezing. But you can drive the same 30 minutes inland to Santarém and it's 10, this is in Fahrenheit. I still think in Fahrenheit instead of, it's 10 degrees hotter.
yeah,
So if it's like 80 here, it's going to be like 70 in Nazaré and it's going to be 90 in Santarém. So
yeah,
there's
yeah.
days when I'm like, all right, let's go to Santarém because it'll be warm enough to go swimming.
Exactly, exactly. It
But
works
that's
that way.
also close. It's amazing.
You know that phenomenon when you go to Azores, the island that is nearby.
I haven't been there yet.
They have cameras in four different points of the island because the climate changes that rapidly.
Amazing. Yeah.
So so they need to scan in the moment. And we rented a car there, and we had sun. And in the 5 minute drive, we had like a storm, like appears like the world is about to end.
Right.
So here the climate is so
Yeah.
erratic, and I think it's fun. I don't
Yeah.
know what kind of coat I should I wear when I leave my house. Like I have a jacket, but then I have a shirt. So I don't know what
Hmm.
I'm going to wear, but maybe all in the same day. I don't
I
know.
usually dress in layers, and I have learned the hard way to pretty much, I almost always wear a raincoat because it's probably going to rain at some
It's
point.
probably yeah,
Winter or the fall, winter, and spring. At some
yeah,
point
yeah,
during the
yeah,
day, there's a good chance it's going to start
yeah. But
pouring.
it
So
stops rapidly also.
it does, it does. But
It
if you're
doesn't last
outside when it's
much.
raining, you will get soaked.
Yeah,
Okay. Now, is there any kind of difference in the sales culture here, or is it just kind of the international work culture?
I think that sales is about relations, and it's good to know that each place that you sell it's different and the expectation is different. So I think that the best way to make a good sell is to be very clear on what you have to offer, what you can offer, and be very clear how that offer can heal a pain on your possible client.
Mhm.
If you have that journey clear, it doesn't matter who you sell.
Okay.
Understand?
Yeah.
That is my opinion. I have sold in whole Latin America, in whole Europe. You might say, okay, they are very different places. They can be, but eventually I get to the same core conclusion. Understand what your business is about, what you can resolve, and understand if the people you're talking to needs it and
Right.
how it needs it.
Yeah.
So if you have that clear, there is no noise in the culture, there is no noise in the ideology, there is no noise at all.
Okay. Now, do you have any advice if somebody either who's already living here or who's thinking about moving here is looking for a job here? What kind of advice could you give them?
Yeah, I have a lot of advice there. Uh, it's not easy. First,
Yeah.
it's not easy. Don't standard your don't standardize your strategy. Never do one CV and deliver the same CV to each company.
Interesting. Okay.
Choose a niche, choose a market, and dive into it For me, it's like selling yourself, and
Right.
customize each CV to each opportunity. Sounds like you're not being productive, but it's way more productive for you to stop and prepare the CV. Maybe for a market, let's say, if you want to be productive, if you want to be efficient, okay, understand a market, understand how you fit a gap, fill a gap on certain market, and prepare the CV for that. Make one only page CV, not a lot of information, one only page, and only
Right.
put the information that is relevant for that position. So if
Okay.
I am 41, I made a lot of stuff, courses and I don't know. I
Right.
have an MBA. I've studied a career, a lot of
Right.
a lot of different masters. I don't know, but does this is interesting for a specific position? Not all of it.
Yeah.
Then you can surprise and tell what you did to show that you want to learn. Okay, you can show that, but it's not the correct moment in the CV.
Okay.
Understand? And
Yeah.
understand there are some platforms that you can understand which are the keywords that the bots
Mhm.
filter
Yep.
to pass through different phases. So prepare your CV in only one page, understand those keywords so you can pass the filters out, and then be yourself, I would say.
I love that advice. About your keyword comment, a friend of mine was saying you can actually take job listings. So if there's like 5 job listings for the same type of position, you can plug those into Chat GPT and have it tell you the top 20 keywords in all of them and make sure
Yeah,
you put those in your CV.
yeah.
So you can use data, but I think you're to your point of just keeping it focused, don't give extra information, and then making sure you're solving their problem.
And like in every cell, try to connect with people without giving the first intention. Try to be hunger and foolish on that aspect. Like it's not only getting to a platform and filling the information. Become passionate about what you're looking for. If you want to be in a certain market, connect with people, talk with people, spend time on that. Be consistent on that. Looking for a job in a country that you don't know is not only sending a CV.
Mm,
It's
right.
it is much more. I spend mostly, I would say, between 3 and 4 hours per day. The last
Right.
phase when I wanted to come here,
Hmm.
looking for a job, and I found the job that I wanted because I spent a lot of time on it.
Yeah.
And my advice is that don't settle with, okay, I sent 10 CVs today. No,
Right.
it's more. It's more complex than that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much for being a guest on the show. This has been very illuminating. And if you guys have any questions, please put them in the comments. And we'll also put, now I'm paranoid about saying your name wrong, contact information in the description. And please comment if you have any other people that you would like me to interview or any questions you have about living and working in Portugal. Thank you so much for being my guest today.
It was a pleasure. Thank you. Bye bye.